Seattle is one of the most well-known cities in the Pacific Northwest, and Atlanta is one of the best-known cities in the Southeast. In today's video, I'm going to talk about living in Seattle versus living in Atlanta. Why? I think Atlanta is a great city to call home. After all, I live here. Atlanta has a steadily growing population and people move here from all across the country. But did you know that of the 50 largest cities in the country, Seattle was the fastest growing last year? That's right. From 2021 to 2022, Seattle's population grew 2.4%. That's especially impressive considering that almost half of the 50 largest cities saw a population decline last year, including nearby Portland. In fact, of the 15 fastest growing big cities, Seattle is the only one not in the sunbelt. But there is one important detail to note. The city of Seattle's population grew last year, but Seattle is located in King County, and the county as a whole saw a population decrease. In contrast, each of the 11 counties that comprise Metro Atlanta saw a population increase last year for a total growth of about 1.7%, and the city of Atlanta saw a population increase as well. Both Atlanta and Seattle have been attracting new residents. Let's talk about some similarities and differences between the two cities. Number one, climate. This is probably one of the most obvious differences between the cities. Seattle is a coastal city in the Pacific Northwest, and Atlanta is a landlocked city in the deep south. Seattle has a temperature marine climate, and Atlanta has a humid subtropical climate. These differences are most stark in the summer. In Seattle, the average high temperature in July is around 90 compared to an average high of about 80 in Seattle. Atlanta is also very humid in the summer, which makes the air feel heavy and sticky at times. Pop-up afternoon thunderstorms are also common here in the summer, whereas the summer months tend to be rather dry in Seattle. Both cities have rather mild winters, with the average January high being in the low 50s in Atlanta and upper 40s in Seattle. Neither city gets much snow, though averaging just a couple inches per year, if that, and both cities tend to shut down for even the smallest amount of snow. Seattle has a reputation for being rainy. It rains an average of 152 days a year, compared to 112 days in Atlanta. So that's about 40 more days of rain in Seattle. In Seattle, the rainiest part of the years tend to be during the winter months, whereas here in Atlanta, our rain is pretty much evenly distributed throughout the year. Number two, location and outdoor activities. It's no secret that Seattle is in an absolutely beautiful geographic area. Between the water and the mountains, Seattle offers enough outdoor activities to please any outdoor enthusiast. Mount Rainier, for example, is just a 2.5-hour drive away and offers even the most experienced hikers a challenge, but also has plenty of beginner-friendly trails as well. Located on the Puget Sound, the 500-plus acre Discovery Park has 12 miles of walking trails, the picturesque West Point Lighthouse, and all amazing mountain view you could want. If being on the water is more of your thing, you have options, lots of options. You can bring your own kayak or paddleboard for a day on the water, or rent one for a few hours. You can also rent a boat for the day or book a ride on a small sailboat. For those of you who ski, come winter, the slopes are only a 2-hour drive away. Seattle is truly in a wonderful location. It is really hard to beat the scenic beauty in many outdoor activities. Let's talk about Atlanta. Seattle has been nicknamed the Emerald City for all the greenery that surrounds it, but Atlanta has been called the city in a forest for its abundant tree canopy. And it is true, there are lots of trees here in Atlanta, especially in the older areas that were developed before developers would clear cut a neighborhood and then replant new trees. There's a lot of natural beauty here in Atlanta, but we just can't compete with Seattle. Atlanta is landlocked and there's no snow-capped mountain that dominates the horizon. In fact, from most of the city, you can't see any mountains at all, and where you can, they are way off in the distance. But hear me out. We have plenty here in Atlanta for outdoor enthusiasts too. A quick 1.5-hour to 2-hour drive will take you up to the Appalachian Mountains in North Georgia. The hiking is different than trying to summit Mount Rainier, but there are still plenty of hikes that appeal to hikers of all experience levels. Lake Lanier is about an hour north of the city and is Atlanta's go-to location for boating and other recreational water activities. The Chattahoochee River runs through the city, and there are areas where you can drop in a kayak or canoe. Georgia has a lot of state parks that are within a couple-hour drive of the city that offer hiking, boating, fishing, mountain biking, and a lot more. So for getting outside in the city, the Beltline in Atlanta is one of the most popular options for residents looking to get out and exercise. Seattle also has Atlanta beat when it comes to skiing. Skiing just really isn't a thing here in Georgia for obvious reasons. There are a few small slopes in North Carolina that usually have a good bit of artificial snow, but West Virginia is the primary destination for skiing for those who don't want to go all the way out west. Number 3, sports. Both cities love their sports. Here in Atlanta, we have professional baseball, pro football, and college football, an MLS team, and an NBA and WNBA team. Similarly, Seattle has an MLB team, pro and college football team, MLS team, and WNBA team. The difference is that Seattle does not have an NBA team, but does have an NHL team. If you love watching live sports or cheering on the home team, both cities have plenty of teams to cheer for. I'd say with the Atlanta sports, I may be biased, but I much rather watch them because they have been doing fantastic and phenomenal these last few years. Number 4, public transportation. Atlanta is a very car-dependent city. You can live here without a car, but it is not a city built with public transportation in mind. We do have MARTA trains and buses, but quite often a car is needed to even get to the MARTA station, and there may or may not be a bus station within an easy walk of your house. Even in the heart of Atlanta, a car is often the easiest way to get where you need to go. Seattle doesn't have the same robust public transportation as someplace like New York City, but it is still a less car-dependent city than Atlanta, at least in the heart of the city where about 50% of the population commutes to work without a car. However, the suburbs of Seattle are just as car-dependent as the suburbs of Atlanta. Number 5, cost of living. Atlanta wins this one. Per finance website NerdWallet, the cost of living in Seattle is about 50% higher than here in Atlanta. Housing is a whopping 102% more expensive in Seattle. Food costs are about 30% higher, and if you're part of the 50% of Seattle residents that uses a car for your commute, you'll be paying higher gas prices. The South is known for generally having a cheaper cost of living, and it certainly holds up in an Atlanta to Seattle comparison. This I can vouch for, as I've actually got a client who found me through one of these videos who's currently, as of this moment, moving from Seattle to retire here in Atlanta. He's finding an incredible home in a country club for only a mere $900,000. It's got 5,400 square feet with incredible updates overlooking the golf course in the backyard in Hampton, Georgia, in South Atlanta. Number 6, job market. Both cities have healthy job markets per best places, especially compared to the national average. So far in 2023, both cities have unemployment rates below the national average of 6%, and both have future job growth over 40% compared to a national job growth of 33%. While both cities do have negative numbers for recent job growth, they are still both doing better than the national average. When it comes to Seattle and Atlanta, in some ways, it's almost like comparing apples and oranges because the cities are so different. But in other ways, they're very similar. If something I said has captured your attention and you want to call Atlanta home, I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, text, give me a call, and let's turn your plan into a reality. As a full-service realtor here in Atlanta, Georgia, I love helping people from all over the country call Atlanta home. So don't forget to subscribe, and catch you on the next video.